G'day guys. With the 2022 Australian federal election coming up on Saturday, I thought this would be an opportune time to expose the things that the politicians don't want you to know. So to get straight to the point, the dirty secret that the politicians have is that they don't want you to know what will be the biggest expenses in your life. So today I'll go through what will be the biggest expenses in your life, and the first two I'll go through pretty quickly, but the last one I really want to delve into just because I find it interesting in terms of what both of the political parties are really suggesting this election. So the expense that you're most likely to be impacted by most heavily will actually be inflation. So inflation is a hidden tax, and the reason I will continually on this channel refer to savers as losers. Not because I don't respect the discipline of saving, but rather because the value of that money saved is losing buying power continually. This is the core essence around why I created this channel, with a view to alert people to the importance of investing. The Reserve Bank of Australia, or the RBA for short, are in charge of interest rates and do their best as part of their role to keep the rate of inflation within their target band of 2 to 3%. Though in reality, to have any number of years within this band, the basket of goods that are included in the inflation statistics have had to change over the years, as the real rate of inflation is much higher than that which is reported, and that's before considering shrinkflation and the diminishing quality of goods due to the cheaper parts and ingredients being used. So the second largest expense that you're likely to face in your lifetime is taxation. So tax is important because there are essential services that need to be funded and people in society who require support. In its current form though, whether we're earning an income or paying for goods or services, we're paying tax. With tax being how it is, it incentivizes people to borrow from banks to secure growth assets, to use leverage to grow their portfolios further, and to decrease one's tax bill through property investment and the use of trust structures to limit their tax bills. These aren't productive activities, yet our tax system encourages these practices and will continue to regardless of which party is in government. So the third largest expense you're likely to face in your lifetime is property, and this point I'd like to cover in some depth. So whichever party is successful, they'll make moves to artificially inflate Australia's property prices beyond their actual value. So why is this the case? Well, big money interests and big donors make it so. To firstly cover Labor with their Help to Buy scheme, since they're favourite to win the upcoming election, I'll give them the most time and interest in what their policy is. So what their Help to Buy scheme entails is for first home buyers to provide a deposit of as low as 2%, with an equity contribution coming from the government of up to 40% on new and 30% on existing properties, which would, as well as the lower deposit, also mean lower mortgage repayments. So sure, this scheme will help first buyers get into properties if they choose to take part in it, but the result from this will have far broader market implications. The biggest winners out of this policy, I fully expect, will be the property investors who have either invested for cash flow in less affluent areas or have purchased large parcels of land in these areas that can be subdivided. The reason for this is the scheme has maximum sales prices in each city and region, which are low and exclude the medium and pricier market segments. How this policy will help the investors with the largest portfolios is through the potentially extreme equity build-up opportunities within many of their investment properties, which only allows them to leverage their wealth further and buy yet more investment properties to continue to stoke the property boom we're currently experiencing. Those involved in the building of new housing will benefit in the short term, whether you're a developer or whether you're involved in the construction of new housing. For those selling in these less affluent areas, larger profits from the sale will be possible than otherwise would have been the case. And if you're a real estate agent, the scheme will help increase your commissions. The consequences of this policy are that for most of the market, buying property will be more expensive than otherwise would have been the case. This means people will need to divert more funds into property purchase if looking to buy, instead of into the purchases of other goods or services. It's also going to price a lot of people who either own or have owned a property in the past out of the market, and price out a lot of people, and first home buyers as well included in this, to get into the middle and higher priced property tiers. It's also going to be an unhelpful policy for first-time property investors or those looking to rent-vest, as it will, at higher buying prices, make the cash flow a lot less appealing as an investment, as investment properties are not included in the scheme. So for me in my own personal situation, wanting a family and not having one yet, to know what kind of property down the track we'll need, well, it's too early to say. So I'd be the kind of person looking to rent vest in my situation. But not only do I plan not to take part in this scheme, as nothing in the price range appeals as a place of residence, but as someone who was considering purchasing an investment property and rent vesting, I'm far less inclined to purchase an investment property, and far more likely to wait until later in the decade if the house of cards collapses to consider any kind of property purchase. So with this scheme set to only further inflate the property price bubble and lead to an even more damaging pop once the property price boom bursts, well, I'm more than happy to deploy my funds into crypto and stocks in the meantime. So is this a good policy for government? Well, most likely the federal government will in time make a profit from the majority of these equity positions upon sale, though that's less likely for high-rise apartments in CBDs and house and land packages in the growth corridors of our major cities, and in particular Melbourne. So if the property house of cards falls at some point below today's prices, well, there's definitely some risk involved. Then we have the new policy idea for the Liberal Party, and I won't spend too much time on them as they're less likely to win the election. But in short, the Liberal Party intends to help first home buyers by allowing them to dip into their superannuation. So it goes without saying that this is a dangerous approach that will erode the retirement savings of Australians, and my view is that it's likely to be problematic, as with our ageing population, in the future the government will be increasingly reliant on people to self-fund their retirements through superannuation, as Australia will likely in the future have to make some tough decisions around the age pension and limiting who it's available to and how much people can get paid through it. On the mechanics of the policy though, so first home buyers will be able to use either $50,000 or 40% of their superannuation, whichever is less, to help with the purchase of their first home. And as with Labor's scheme, there are restrictive policy price maximums. Overall, the results on property prices and those who will benefit are likely to be largely the same, though the property price rise is likely to be less extreme under the Liberal Party, and the opportunity for first home buyers to get into cheaper property not as extreme either. If you enjoyed this analysis, I may in the future consider starting a politics channel where I expose some of the short-term orientated policies that we have on both sides of politics and go through some really common sense solutions that will improve our economy over the long term and make our buying power a lot stronger than it is today. But anyway guys, see you in the next video.